Hello and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube live or later and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes a Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message and meditation today comes from the Reverend Juan Enrique Toro. Reverend Juan was the senior minister of the bilingual ministry Unity Costa Rica in San Jose, Costa Rica for 20 years. In 1996, he co-founded Unidad en Oración, an affiliated silent unity, which answered as many as 1,000 calls per month. He was ordained at Unity Village in 1991. From June 2004 to June 2005, he served as the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Association of Unity Churches. Between 2015 and 2017, Reverend Toro served at Unity of Fredericksburg as a visiting minister. Reverend Toro is currently working as a chaplain in the healthcare community of New York City. He is also a guest speaker at a number of Unity centers. And now, here is Reverend Juan Enrique Toro.
Oh, there I am. All right. Unity of Fredericksburg. Good morning. God bless you. A virtual hug to all of you. Just tight. Ooh, beautiful hug. I'm so excited to be with you today. I got a tie on that was gifted to me by Nina. So I feel like I have you like right here with me. So I'm so excited to be here. I love all of you, and it's such a joy to be able to be with you today. And of course, I'm here to share some truth, right? And I have to tell you, it's a difficult time to be sharing truth, but it's an important time. So, title today is The Audacity of Trust, because I believe that all of us need to be able to find the ability to trust. All right. Now, if you remember, Albert Einstein said, or he posed what he called the most important question of humanity. Now, somebody like Albert Einstein says the most important question, you think he'd be talking about particle physics or some kind of quantum theory or some kind of, theory of relativity kind of thing. No, no, no. Albert Einstein says, ask yourself the question, is this a friendly universe? Is the universe a friendly place? Something to that regard. Now, as I'm addressing a unity crowd, my guess is that most of us would answer in the affirmative. Our theology says God is absolute good, right? We're down with the idea that goodness is the essence of life, of God. And we go forth with that theology. And it informs the way we show up in the world. Otherwise, Albert Einstein went on to say, if you believe the universe is an unfriendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, our natural resources to create bigger walls, to keep out unfriendliness, and to build bigger weapons to destroy all that which is unfriendly. And as I look around the world, I think he's describing a scenario that we're currently living. So, in the climate that we find ourselves in, I have been looking for places where I can find a spiritual truth, spiritual sanctuaries. And lately, I've been working on three basic ideas, which is belonging, trust, and spiritual practice. Now, I'm going to focus on trust today, but the idea of belonging and trust is a very interesting relationship. I'm going to invite you to meditate on that because what I've discovered for me is that belonging and trust are two sides of the same coin. One helps the other helps the other. What I mean by a sense of belonging is, do you feel a part of? Do you feel, in unity, we talk a lot about oneness, right? Do you feel part of? Do you feel one with? Are you at home, right, in your body? Are you at home in your heart? Are you at home on the earth? Are you in the present moment? The sense of belonging. You can ask yourself, am I here? Am I here? Right? That's the kind of sense of belonging that I'm talking about, being part of, one with. Because if you don't feel like you belong, if you feel marginalized or separated, then it engenders a whole sense of something's wrong in the world. I can't trust. You see, trust and belonging really support each other. And so if you don't feel like you belong, again, you're going to put up walls. If you feel that you belong, it helps us establish trust. Now I'm going to drop a little truth bomb right here at the beginning. And here's the truth bomb for you. I want you to meditate on this. There's only one quality that determines our capacity for happiness and intimacy in our life, and that is trust. Let me repeat that. There's only one quality that determines our capacity for happiness and intimacy, and that's trust. You have a basic level of trust, and from there, you can go on to love, to intimacy, to happiness. But you have to establish that baseline of trust. Now, having said that, let's admit a few things to ourselves. From an evolutionary design, trust, or let me say mistrust, is baked into us, right? We have, as the basic consciousness in our life, a survival instinct. And if you just think of animals in nature, right, in their natural habitat, right, they're out doing their thing. They're flying, they're walking, they're swimming, whatever they're doing. But wherever they are, no matter what they're doing, there's always some part of their consciousness that's watching out to see if there's a potential danger. All of the animals are always on alert. Is this a safe space? Is this a place where I can be at peace, relax? Or is there something that's threatening me? This is baked into our very sense of being, our very survival instinct. So we come into this existence with what we could call a negativity bias. That's baked into us, right? That just comes from evolution. Now, that's number one. You add to that your childhood experience with caregiving, how your parents, how caregivers attended to you. Was it a safe space? Were your needs met? Was there a message either from your home, from the outside world, from the school, from the environment? I don't belong. Was there a sense in you, I can't trust this world? Were you at some point longing to belong, to be part of, to trust? You see, these are important questions because we can see that not only do we have this evolutionary design or this negativity bias, but whatever our experience was early in life, and I'm guessing that all of us have had situations where we felt marginalized, separated, judged, condemned, that we have had to work with in our life. And so we have that boom, we have the second boom, and then, of course, the whole world situation. We look at it. Can we possibly trust? Now, because I'm addressing a Unity audience, and I said right at the beginning, we have a basic theology of God as absolute good. I want you to recognize the evolution of consciousness that you have made. If the unity message resounds in your heart, if you say, yes, I'm down with that idea, that theology of God is absolute good, then what you're saying is, I have evolved beyond my negativity bias, beyond whatever caregiving experience I had of mistrust or being marginalized or, being set aside, right? I have evolved beyond that. So I praise all of you who are tuning in today. I praise all of you because you have made this jump in consciousness that leads you towards that oneness with God, which is absolute good. So you might be saying to yourself, well, okay, great. So what's the problem? The problem is, in the current environment that we're in, it's really hard to trust. Okay? The rules of the game right now are shifting. And a sense of belonging, a sense of trust is very difficult to hold on to, at least for me. Okay? There was a study done in which scientists took some rat pups, rat babies. You know, they call them pups. I didn't know that. They call them pups, rat pups. They put them in an environment, and they do what babies normally do. They played with each other. They're horsing around. They're having a good old time, right? And into that environment, the scientists introduced one cat hair, just one, dropped it in there. Immediately, the play stopped. Everybody went back, no more play. Suddenly, everybody's on alert. It's possible that those rat pups never saw a cat, but because they have this inside of themselves, this evolutionary warning sign, immediately play stopped. Now, I'm sure you've experienced something similar, right? Here in New York City, you'd be on the subway train. You're just minding your own business. You're going to your destination. Suddenly, some crazy guy gets on the car and he starts screaming and he seems a little violent. Right away, everybody's grabbing their stuff. Any sense of peace or comfort or trust that you may have had in that environment has disappeared. You don't know if the guy's going to be violent. You don't know if he's going to attack you. Your questions go through your head. Does this guy have a gun? Is he going to hurt somebody? What's going to happen? The guy is screaming. He's out of control. And you're thinking to yourself, let me grab my stuff. And at the next stop, I'm getting off, right? Again, self-protection, survival. You don't want any problem, right? Now, in the world that we're living in, if the world is a subway car, some crazy has just walked into our car, right? Things are very difficult to trust. And the thing is, on this subway car, there's no getting off at the next stop, right? There's no getting off. So, if a few weeks ago, the United States bombed Iran, an act of war that was not sanctioned by Congress. If you're a business owner and you're dealing with these tariffs, you don't know how to show up. You don't know how to set prices. You don't know how to be in the world. If you have a government job, your job may be in question. The health system and this thing about vaccines, right? The measles and all this business. If you're an immigrant, I pray for you, right? Both my daughter and my wife have a permanent resident status. Well, permanent resident doesn't mean what it used to mean, right? education, threats on education, legal system upside down. You don't know if you can trust it. The rule of law, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly and protest, independent judiciary, all these things. They're moving our world. It's an earthquake going on, and it's hard to know where to land. We have a president who accepts gifts, multi-million-dollar gifts from questionable allies, who sells cryptocurrency to enrich himself and his family. So what I'm saying is that it's very difficult to trust, right? Now, a 17th century philosopher from England named Thomas Hobbes, he said the following: without laws to govern us, we live lives that are solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Sounds English, doesn't it? Especially that brutish. But basically, he's saying that the laws is what gives us stability. If everybody follows the law and does their part, then we know that everything is okay. We can be part of that system, we contribute to that system, and we belong and we can trust. When that's not there, poor, solitary, nasty, brutish, and short. Okay, so like I say, this subway car ain't stopping. Now, there is only one solution to finding a measure of peace, to finding a sense of belonging, and to coming into trust. The spiritual solution. Politics ain't going to take us home. Science ain't going to take us home. Technology ain't going to take us home. Okay, there's only one solution, and that is the spiritual solution. So I'd like to shift gears with you now, okay? Just take a deep breath after all that mess that I just reminded you of. And let me quote Hafiz. I know I read this poem when I was with you in Fredericksburg, but I'll repeat it for you today. Hafiz, the Sufi poet, Persian, right? Today, Iran. So let's call him an Iranian poet of the 14th century, okay? Sufi tradition. Hafiz says, admit something. Everyone you see, say to them, love me. Of course, you don't do this out loud. Otherwise, someone would call the cops. Still, though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye? That is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in the world is dying to hear. I love that. So let's just admit the reason you've come into unity, the reason you say yes to this God is absolute good theology is because there's a longing, there's a truth within you that's moving you with a great pull to connect with that sense of oneness with God. And so why don't we just say that? Why don't we just come into that truth? And the only way to come into that is the spiritual solution. So today, I have two ideas for you to help you with this. Things that I've discovered for myself. I want to share them with you. Okay. The first one is basically shifting our perspective, shifting our attention to goodness. Okay. Let me tell you a story. Last Wednesday, I had a meeting in Manhattan, and I took the subway, and I get down to the platform, and as soon as I step on the platform, my train pulls up. Don't have to wait a minute. step right into the train, sit down. Go to my stop, I get out. Now, it had been raining that day, but when I came out, it wasn't raining. Didn't need an umbrella. So I come out and I look at my watch and I say to myself, hey, I got a little bit extra time. You know what I'd like? I would love a cup of coffee. As soon as I had that thought, I see a Starbucks across the street. Walk across the street, walk into the Starbucks. No line at the counter. Step up, I see the barista's name is Adrian. I said, Adrian, how you doing today? He says, I'm doing pretty good. I said, I hope the rest of your day is just as good. He says, great, what can I get you? I said, Adrian, give me a small black coffee, please. Adrian gives me a medium black coffee. I said, Adrian, you upgraded my order. He says, hey, you treat me good, I treat you good. I said, great, Adrian, thank you. Look over, and I see a window seat. A table and a window and a table and a chair right next to a window looking out to the street. And in New York City, that is prime real estate, baby. Sit down at my table, and suddenly I'm sitting there with my coffee, medium. And I say to myself, you know what? I think to myself, dude, you are in the groove. You are in the flow. Things are going your way today. Look at this. The train, the rain, the Adrian over here, no line. You got the table. Things are happening for you. I'm thinking, man, that's awesome. Wow, I'm excited. Just as I'm thinking that thought, the phone rings. It's my wife. She has a question for me. She asked the question, answer the question. She says to me, how you doing? I said, man, I am doing great. I'm in the flow. I'm having great time. I'm really great. I'm really feeling good. She says, man, can I have some of that energy? I said, great, take it all. Walk out onto the street toward my appointment. On my way, I'm thinking to myself, geez, I wonder if this being in the flow, being in the groove, I wonder if it's supposed to be that way. I wonder if I'm supposed to live life at this level. I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to assume that everything else that goes on from the rest of the day is going to be in my favor, that the world is just going to be in favor of me today. I'm going to continue to be in the flow. And I thought to myself, is there any theology around this sensation that I'm having? I say to myself, well, is God in the flow? Is the God in the groove? Is God, there? I said, yeah. I said, well, am I a child of God? I said, yeah. Am I one with God? I said, yeah. So guess what? Yeah, I'm in the groove. And I think to myself, great. I'm going to hold on to this idea of beholding goodness, the flow, whatever it is, for the rest of the day. And guess what? The rest of the day went right through that. It was exactly what I had perceived. So, hello. Where your thoughts go, energy flows. Where your thoughts go, energy flows. Or as we say in Unity, thoughts held in mind, repeat after me, boom, produce after their kind. Right? So, and we say, behold the Christ. We say, namaste. I like to see the light and the beauty within you. So the first idea in getting into this environment of being able to feel like you belong, being able to trust, comes from the perception, the theological truth that God is absolute good and that there's goodness everywhere, to perceive that goodness, to see it in the actions that are happening, to see it in the others, and to see it in yourself. Sometimes seeing it in ourselves is the most challenging part of that. Let me quote a Jungian analyst called Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson says, curiously, people resist the noble aspects of themselves, the unacknowledged traits, more strenuously than they hide the dark side. It's more disrupting to find that you have profound nobility of character than to find out that you are a bum. And I agree with this guy. It's much easier for me to say I'm a bum, admit that to myself, to others, than to say I'm an angel. Hey, I'm a bum, no problem. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I can't see you anyway, but how many of you would be readily willing to admit I'm a bum? And a little more difficult, I'm an angel. Well, so we have some work to do there, to seeing the goodness, excuse me, with each other, right? Now, just to remind you, excuse me, Julie Andrews put it down pretty clear. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad. Sing it with me. I simply remember a few of my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Right? Julie Andrews put it down. So that's the first idea. All right. Now, that's great. However, it requires a certain amount of consciousness, a certain level of being awake to help us get into that. Okay. Now, like for me in the Starbucks, when I had that realization, once you make that little jump, it's not hard to continue in that, but it does require a certain amount of light already presence, a certain measure of being awake. What do we do in those moments when it all looks dark? Okay, so that's the second idea here. And the first thing that we need to recognize is that if we feel that the darkness has enveloped us, you put on the news, you hear, what's going on politically, and it pushes all of your buttons. You don't know what country you're living in. You're concerned about people you love, and you don't know what to do with it. You might just remember, wow, the only solution here. You don't know, what should I do? One of the big questions, like, what should I do with all of this? Well, the spiritual solution, friends, is the only way through. All of your work, all of your reading, all of your workshops, all of your spiritual practice leads you to remember that God is there. The spiritual solution is our only way through. So we need to come back and come back and come back to the heart over and over again to be able to get through these times. And the first thing you need to do when you come back, if you're going to go to prayer, if you're going to go to meditation, if you're going to go to God, here's what you need to recognize and admit. Where am I? Am I in this moment? Am I in my body? What am I feeling? And be honest with yourself. I'm feeling fearful. I'm hating. I'm angry. I'm desperate. Admit those things to yourselves. What thoughts are you thinking? What are the most negative thoughts that you're thinking? What are the most negative feelings that you're feeling? Prayer, ladies and gentlemen, always begins where we are. It begins where we are. But in order to know where we are, we need to recognize it and we need to admit it. Take time to really feel it, investigate it, and give it space within you. Allow it. If it's there, you need to befriend it. You need to be willing to be in that negativity. We tend to want to squish it down. We want to repress it. We want to detour away from it. We want to candy coat it. We want to do anything to not feel or see those things. But the spiritual solution begins where we are, and we need to admit where we are. Whenever I do a therapy session, my therapist has a favorite phrase that she says. we do some investigation and we touch on some unconsciousness that I have within myself. And it's not usually very pleasant, very fun. It's uncomfortable. And she says, now that you feel it, give it all of the space, which means she says, open your heart and let it be what it needs to be within you. Let it express. And when we do that, right, when I do that, it usually brings up more, and I start going and it gets deeper and darker and worse. And she keeps saying, give it all the space. This is the therapeutic process. Why? Because in that exploration, jumping into that consciousness of giving it all space, we're going to come into the realization, we're going to come into the awareness that there's a moment when we realize, wow, all of those things can be in me and I don't die. I don't disappear. They can be in me and I am still here. In other words, what we call the witness self, the observer, begins to dawn in our consciousness. And that witness can observe everything, all of the thoughts, all of the negativity, all of the fear, all the desperation, all the anger, all the hate, can observe it and know that from the point of the observer, all is well. In other words, that fear has no power over us. That hate has no power over us. That desperation has no power over us, you see. This is the prayer process. This is the spiritual process. As long as we're willing to be with what is, be really honest with ourselves, then we give it that space, allowing it to be just as it is. And if you hold it long enough, the dawn of consciousness inevitably happens within us. That dawn of consciousness reminds us of who we are. Yes, the legal system is upside down. Yes, politics I don't understand. Yes, I don't feel part. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm judging. Yes, all of this. Yes, and here I am. Here I am. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not my emotions. I am. God is. I am. God is. I am. You see, in that space, we become free. In that space, we become free. So, to engender a sense of belonging and trust, these two ideas. Number one, perceive the goodness. Behold the Christ. All these things that we know. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, simply remember a few. Thoughts held in mind produce after the kind. Bam, basic truth. And when it's hard for us to do that, we have a little bit more work to do. We come into the consciousness of the ocean. The ocean understands that there are waves. And ladies and gentlemen, we got waves crashing every day. You wake up in the morning, you don't know what the waves are going to be crashing on. You got news over here, this over there, this exploding over there, this going on over here. Oh my God. We're aware of those waves. We understand those waves are there. And if we're willing to allow them, to give them space, to let it be, we'll come into the awareness that, yes, I can perceive the oceans, but you know what? The waves. But the truth is, I am the ocean. And the ocean's got, well, what have the waves got on the ocean? Nothing. The waves are the ocean. It's just waves, large, small, whatever. I'm the ocean. I'm the depth of the ocean. I'm the peace of the ocean. So we give it all of that space. Let me conclude today by offering you another quote from Hafiz. This is a part of a poem of his. He says, "My dear, let prayer become your beautiful lover." He says, "My dear, let prayer become your beautiful lover and become free. Become free of this world." Charles Fillmore said, "Prayer is the highest form of mind action." Hafiz is saying the same thing a little more poetically. Let prayer become your beautiful lover when you are with your lover. You're free. You trust, you belong, you're part of, you're in one with. Let prayer take you home. In these times, ladies and gentlemen, we all need the audacity of trust. God bless you all, Unity of Fredericksburg. And I know that now we're going to go into our meditation time. So I'll invite you to just take this energy as we've shared today and to quiet yourself in this space. I'll continue to keep my eyes open, but if you'd like, or if it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to close your eyes. And I always like to begin a prayer session by acknowledging the heart, being conscious of the physical heart. Sometimes I like to put my hands on my heart to keep my attention there. And I like to imagine that I breathe through the heart, what we call heart breathing. Centers me, reminds me to be in my body, to be in the present moment. And as we do this meditation, I'm just going to invite you to imagine for yourself looking upon the screen of your consciousness just from the inside and perceiving absolute darkness. Absolute darkness. As you look out, there's nothing there to see but darkness. There are times in our life when darkness is our only friend. And yet when we're in the darkness, we understand that no matter how dark it is, the light is always present. So on this screen of consciousness, I invite you now to imagine the tiniest, the smallest of pinpricks of light that emerges on that screen of consciousness. Just the smallest light, and we choose to put our attention on it. It's an act of will. And as we put our attention on that just tiniest of light, we begin to see that the light expands, that it grows. We notice that if we take our attention away from the light and put it on the darkness, that that light once again begins to shrink. But again, we choose to be in the light, and so we put our attention in the light and watch it expand. Watch it grow. And as it grows, we see it both grow in circumference and in intensity. Allow it to grow through the power of your attention. Giving your attention to the light. And see it expand. Until every corner of our inner consciousness is filled with light. There is no place where light is not. The light does not battle with the darkness. It simply expresses, and the darkness disappears. So we hold our attention there, and we come into the realization that that light and that which is observing the light are the same. That there's a sense of we are the light. There's a sense of homecoming, of being, profound sense of being. And it is in that consciousness where we can affirm. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, God is. Breathing in, I am. Breathing out, God is. Perhaps the most powerful affirmation that we can say. And that is that truth that informs whatever doubts, whatever fears, whatever sense of marginalization, negativity, because in that light there is no fear. We stand firm upon that conviction. God is, and I am. And so I'll just invite you to gently bring your attention back to this time and this place. Feel free to open your eyes. We know in the name and the nature of that one God, that one truth, we give thanks. Amen and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Toro. And thank you all for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.